WVUA News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Tamika Alexander. We begin tonight with an update on a project Tuscaloosa city leaders have been working on for years, and it may put a stop to some of your illegal driving habits. WVUA's Travis Leader joins us now with more.
That's right, Tamika. The City Council Public Safety Committee approved a running red light campaign at City Hall today. Now, the stricter enforcement of this campaign is being aided by red light cameras, which will be implemented at various intersections throughout the city. Now, here's how it will work. Once the cameras spot a driver running the red light at an intersection, the video evidence will be sent to the Tuscaloosa Police Department, and the department will then review whether an infraction occurred. A notice of violation will then be mailed to the vehicle owner, and a web link will be offered for each individual to review their possible infraction. The maximum red light running fee is $100, and City Engineer Joe Robinson says once the City Council takes the necessary steps, Tuscaloosa citizens will then see an ad campaign letting people know the cameras will soon be watching you.
We're going to do extensive ad campaign before the program actually starts. We want to make sure everybody understands what red light cameras will do.
Robinson says it's likely the ordinances will be in place before the actual cameras are installed, but he says everything should be fully installed and implemented by the end of fall. Tamika?
Thanks, Travis. The city of Tuscaloosa is not planning on increasing what is already the state-required punishment for texting and driving on local roadways. The ordinance passed the City Council's Public Safety Committee and is set for approval next Tuesday by the entire council. The city will be administering $25 fines for those guilty of texting and driving. Instead of going through the state to pay fines for those infractions, people will either be able to pay their tickets online or at the same window where you would pay a speeding ticket. City leaders say this is a more efficient method than going to court, where if found guilty, you may be paying more than $100 in court costs on top of your texting and driving penalty. The Tuscaloosa Department of Transportation wants to prevent drivers from parking along Jack Warner Parkway. This road is the site of many parked cars during UA home football games. The Tuscaloosa City Council Projects Committee approved TDOT's request. Parking would not be allowed from McFarland Boulevard all the way to 28th Avenue. TDOT's Tara Tubb says this is meant to protect potential pedestrians. According to a University of Alabama and City Engineering Department study, there is a probability of having a pedestrian hit by a moving vehicle 1 out of every 9 football seasons. And with the nature of that stretch of road, Tubbs says that people need to find alternative places to park their cars.
Jack Warner Parkway being a high-speed road the way it is, what we want to do is encourage people to use the public parking lots that are available to them and actually cross at the crosswalks and the signals that we have installed.
The city plans to have tow trucks on the parkway to actively enforce illegal parking. Tubbs says the city will have to install proper signage first before towing any vehicles. And city leaders are looking to get rid of a few unwanted items. Tuscaloosa police are hoping to auction various items such as impounded cars, bicycles, and other surplus items. They are trying to set up a time for this auction because of the overcrowding taking place at the city's impound lot. There are still some steps the city needs to take before the auction can take place. Not only does a date need to be set, but the city is also trying to find an agency who would perform the auctioning. Tuscaloosa Police Sergeant Don Thompson says you may be able to find a few bargains once the city can get some of this property off of his hands.
A lot of times they come out real cheap. I mean, I've had people drive out in cars for 85 bucks. The cheapest I ever sold a car was $5 and it was full of old parts and they had to tow it out. So a deal is what you make of it.
And once the date is set, there are also items up for auction from TDOT and the Tuscaloosa Metro Transit Authority. And city leaders are hoping to work with downtown businesses to better regulate mobile food vendors. At today's City Council meeting, committee members also discussed the growing popularity of these mobile food vendors and the growing concern brick and mortar businesses have with these various eateries because of some of the foundational businesses in the downtown district are spending more money building and operating businesses in that area compared to mobile vendors who can operate these kitchens in the same area with less cost. City Development Ombudsman Brendan Moore says the next step is to reach out to the business community.
I'm going to reach out to the local merchants, in particular the Chamber of Commerce, and solicit some of their input and try to meet with some of those particularly downtown merchants and other merchants that the food trucks or mobile vendors have been more active in.
Moore says it's up to the City Council to listen to the business community's input and take any further steps towards regulation. Well, switching gears to weather, let's get a first check on Alabama's home team forecast. Chief Meteorologist Richard Scott joins us now. Nice weather out there, Richard. I hear some cooler weather maybe on the way.
Yet to make it exactly. Tonight out there going to get a little cooler. Hey, it's felt great out there today. Not that bad in terms of weather conditions, but we have 65 already in downtown at Haleyville, 73 Tuscaloosa, 74 down to Linden and Marion. And we're going to get cooler tonight. We're talking those upper 50s to around 60. The old boundary, the stationary front south of us now. And behind that, the cooler, dry air taking over, at least for tonight. You'll notice those drier and cooler conditions out there. Now, our forecast for Wednesday gets kind of hot during the afternoon hours. 90 degrees by 4 o'clock, but a good supply of sun, low humidity. What about the rest of the forecast? Plus, what about the latest on Tropical Storm Isaac and your weekend forecast? Weather straight ahead. Stick around.
Thanks, Richard. 100 freshmen from the University of Alabama started the school year off helping others. 40 of those students helped build a Habitat for Humanity home in Alberta City. WVUA's Emily Forrester has more on that story.
Painting boards, cutting wood, and installing a roof, UA freshmen helped Habitat for Humanity build a home for Willie Welch in Alberta City, while building lasting friendships at the same time.
It definitely just unites the community, especially because they're freshmen, so it gets them forming relationships before school even starts.
The program is called the Ripple Effect, Freshman Service Day, and it not only acquaints students with their peers, but also lets them serve their community.
You can tell you're doing everything for these people. Like, you can feel you're making a difference.
And it feels good to be around like good people, like, making new friends, like serving in the community.
These UA freshmen say serving their new community is very important. And even though Mrs. Welch is helping build the home herself, she appreciates every bit of help with the construction of her new home.
It means a whole lot to me. It really did. It really. And I appreciate it so much. I just can't tell you how much I appreciate this.
In Alberta City, Emily Forrester, WVUA News.
Students also participated in projects with Temporary Emergency Services, the United Saints Recovery Project, and the Red Cross. On your election watch, the race for Northport mayor. 1 week from today, voters head to the polls to select the next mayor and city council members. All this week, we have special election coverage for you right here on WVUA News. Monday, current mayor Bobby Herndon joined us. Today, former mayor Harvey Fretwell, and tomorrow on WVUA News at 5, Frank Chandler will join us in the studio. And Thursday, Robert Thomas will be here on WVUA News at 5. The election is set for Tuesday, August 28th. Alabama voters head to the polls on September 18th to vote on a special amendment for Medicaid. The Alabama Medicaid amendment would authorize the annual transfer of more than $145 million from an oil and gas trust fund to the general fund budget for the state Medicaid budget. Governor Robert Bentley says he and legislative leaders are committed to paying back the money. Bentley says big budget cuts are likely if the amendment does not pass. Well, WVUA is covering Huntsville, where a high-speed chase broke out, reaching more than 100 miles an hour. Police said the driver had drugs in the car as the officer walked toward the car after stopping it. He said he could smell drugs, but before he could speak to the driver, they sped away. Police chased the car on the freeway, reaching speeds of 110 miles an hour. When officers finally caught up with the car, they said they found drugs stashed inside and arrested the driver.